Shraddha Walkar was just another face in the crowd of Mumbai, an ordinary young woman with a warm smile and quiet dreams. She had moved to the city to build a life of her own, away from the expectations of her small-town upbringing. She worked as a graphic designer at a local firm, often spending her evenings sketching, journaling, or scrolling through social media. That's where she came across Arman Verma, a charismatic, fast-talking food blogger who was steadily gaining attention for his street food vlogs and heartwarming videos of him feeding stray dogs. His Instagram was filled with colorful reels, vibrant food platters, and cheerful captions. Arman wasn't just a content creator. He was becoming a personality. With over 300,000 followers and growing fast, he had the kind of online influence many only dreamed of. Their first interaction was harmless. Shraddha commented on one of his posts about a street vendor she loved as a child. Arman replied. Soon after, he messaged her. Conversations grew longer. He complimented her art, asked about her favorite foods, and told her he loved talking to real people. Flattered and intrigued, Shraddha agreed to meet him. Their first date was modest, cutting chai and vada pav at a seaside stall. But Arman made it feel special. He was funny, charming, and spoke passionately about food, animals, and his dream of opening a cafe someday. Shraddha felt seen in a way she hadn't before. Over the next few months, their bond deepened. Arman started featuring her in small glimpses on his stories. Her hands in the background, her laughter off-screen, her art hanging on his walls. For his fans, it was a romantic mystery. For Shraddha, it was real. She moved in with him 6 months after they started dating. Her friends raised eyebrows, and her parents were hesitant, but she insisted she was happy. She said Arman made her feel alive. At first, it was all she imagined. Arman would cook elaborate meals, take her on night drives, and talk about their future together. He wanted her to design the logo for his future cafe, wanted her to help with editing his videos, even considered turning their relationship into a couples channel. But slowly things began to change. Arman's mood would swing unpredictably. He'd get angry if Shraddha didn't reply immediately to his messages when she was at work. He criticized her clothes, saying she should look more presentable if she was living with someone in the public eye. He controlled where she went, who she spoke to, and how much she posted online. Shraddha tried to brush it off, thinking maybe he was just stressed from work. His online life was demanding, always needing content, engagement, perfection. Maybe it was pressure. Maybe he just needed her support. But soon the support became silence. She stopped meeting friends, stopped returning calls from her mother. Her colleagues noticed her quietness. Her eyes looked duller. She no longer smiled the way she used to. When someone asked about Arman, she gave rehearsed answers. He's busy, or he's working on something big. What no one knew was that behind closed doors their relationship had become suffocating. Arman had isolated her completely. He monitored her phone, restricted her bank access, and accused her of being disloyal if she even smiled at a male colleague. Yet on camera, Arman remained the golden boy of social media. His vlogs were cheerful. His content was polished. He'd continued to feed dogs on Sunday mornings, give reviews of street momos, and post inspirational captions about following your passion. His audience adored him. Brands began sending him free merchandise. He was invited to food festivals, and even got a small sponsorship deal. He had everything: fame, money, attention, and now complete control over Shraddha. What Shraddha didn't realize was that Arman had begun to see her not as a person, but as a possession, something that added aesthetic value to his life but had to remain obedient. Their fights grew intense. Shraddha once confided in a former roommate through a late-night text that she felt like a prisoner. She said she missed herself. The girl who loved drawing, books, and soft music no longer existed. She was always on alert, always afraid of saying the wrong thing. That was the last message she ever sent. Her friends grew worried when she missed a reunion dinner. Calls went unanswered. Messages were left unread. Her phone location was turned off. Her Instagram account was suddenly active again, but it didn't feel like her. Posts went up, quotes about independence, solo selfies with filters, and captions like, "Taking time for myself." But those who knew her found it strange. The language was off. The tone didn't match her. Her best friend, Meenal, visited Arman's apartment unannounced, but found the door locked and no answer. The watchman said Arman still lived there but came and went at odd hours. Meenal alerted Shraddha's parents, who hadn't heard from their daughter in nearly 3 weeks. Panic set in. A missing persons report was filed. When police questioned Arman, he was cool and composed. He told them Shraddha had left after an argument, that she was depressed and wanted space. He claimed she had packed a small bag and said she needed time away. He even showed them the messages from her number, saying she was safe and starting over. But something felt off. His story had holes, and his behavior was too relaxed. Most concerning of all, there was no proof she had left the apartment. No footage from building CCTV, no cab booking, no ATM withdrawal. Nothing. Police asked to search the apartment, but Arman insisted they needed a warrant. By then, suspicion had begun to mount. Shraddha's employer confirmed she hadn't logged into work in over 3 weeks and hadn't applied for leave. Her bank account hadn't seen any transactions. Her phone remained unreachable. Meanwhile, Arman continued his online routine. He posted a vlog about 5 hidden food spots in Mumbai, complete with cheerful background music and playful editing. He even posted a video where he fed stray dogs near the railway tracks, smiling as he spoke about compassion. The comment section overflowed with love. No one suspected a thing. But offline, a storm was brewing. The truth was starting to surface. And when it did, it would shock the entire country. What appeared to be a perfect online love story was about to be revealed as something far darker, something twisted beyond imagination. Shraddha Walkar had vanished without a trace. But her absence was only the beginning of the horror. The disappearance of Shraddha Walkar sent ripples of shock and confusion through her family, friends, and the wider community. When her parents realized they hadn't heard from their daughter for weeks, their worry turned into desperation. Mumbai's sprawling cityscape, with its millions of residents, was a difficult place to search for a missing person, but they refused to give up. Shraddha had always been responsible, careful, and connected to her loved ones. For her to vanish without a word was unthinkable. The police took the missing person report seriously and launched an investigation. At first, they followed the usual leads, checking Shraddha's usual hangouts, tracing her phone records, and speaking to her friends and co-workers. But the trail grew cold quickly. Her phone was unreachable, not switched off, but entirely untraceable, as if someone was deliberately hiding her location. Her social media accounts remained suspiciously active, posting periodic updates that seemed almost staged. There was no sign of distress in any of the posts, just carefully curated photos, cryptic captions about new beginnings, and selfies that didn't quite look like Shraddha. As days turned into weeks, suspicion began to shift towards the last person who had seen her, Arman Verma. When questioned by the police, Arman appeared calm, almost too calm. He insisted that Shraddha had left after a fight, that she was seeking space from their relationship, and that she was alive and well. He even produced messages from her phone to back his claim, showing texts where she said she needed time alone. But these messages raised doubts among investigators. The language was inconsistent with Shraddha's usual style, cold and detached, unlike the warm and thoughtful woman her friends knew. Some experts suggested the messages could have been fabricated or sent under duress. Neighbors near Arman's apartment offered conflicting stories. Some said they hadn't seen Shraddha for weeks. Others mentioned strange noises, late-night arguments, loud banging, and silence that followed. No one saw Shraddha leave the building, which raised a troubling question. If she had indeed left on her own, why had no one noticed? The police tried to gather more evidence by examining Arman's digital footprint. They found he had been unusually active online throughout the disappearance period, uploading videos, replying to fans, and even collaborating with local food brands. His social media portrayed him as the same happy, energetic blogger who cared for stray dogs and enjoyed culinary adventures. Yet behind the screens, a darker reality was taking shape. An anonymous tip came from one of Arman's neighbors, a young man who said he'd heard a horrible smell coming from the drainage pipes behind the apartment complex. It was an unbearable stench that lingered for days. When officers checked the area, they found traces of blood near the drains and small bones scattered across the alleyways. The gruesome discovery prompted a more intensive search of the building and surrounding areas. In Arman's apartment, detectives found a mattress stained with blood, hidden away in a storage room. Forensics confirmed the blood belonged to Shraddha. This finding shattered Arman's story and turned the investigation from a missing person case into a murder inquiry. The atmosphere shifted. What had seemed like a heartbreak story now became a nightmare. The police also uncovered that Arman had bought disturbing items in the weeks before Shraddha vanished. Receipts showed purchases of a heavy-duty meat grinder, large plastic bags, saws, and cleaning chemicals. These items raised chilling possibilities. Investigators theorized that Arman might have planned the crime and its aftermath carefully, intending to destroy all evidence. CCTV footage from nearby streets revealed that Arman had been seen late at night carrying heavy, unmarked bags to different locations around the city. These spots were mostly secluded: parks, waste disposal areas, and places known to be frequented by stray dogs. The footage showed Arman acting furtively, checking over his shoulder and walking briskly. Residents living near these dumping sites reported hearing strange noises at night, unsettling sounds that no one could explain. Some even claimed to see groups of stray dogs gathering unusually, fighting over something unseen. The police began to suspect that Arman was trying to dispose of evidence in a horrifying way. Questions started piling up. Why would a man known for feeding stray dogs use them to cover up a crime? Was it possible that Arman believed the animals could clean up the mess? The thought was horrifying, but frighteningly logical to a person desperate to erase all traces of a crime. As news spread, the public grew increasingly disturbed. Social media erupted with speculation, outrage, and grief. Many struggled to reconcile the image of the kind food blogger they had admired with the possibility of such a gruesome crime. Followers who had once sent love and support now demanded answers, justice, and accountability. Meanwhile, Shraddha's family was left in unbearable pain, desperate for closure but terrified of the truth. Her parents pleaded for justice, refusing to believe she had simply disappeared. They demanded a thorough investigation and vowed to keep Shraddha's memory alive. The community organized vigils and awareness campaigns, hoping to support other victims of abuse and violence. Police continued to dig deeper into Armand's background. Reports from former acquaintances hinted at a pattern of manipulation and anger issues, though nothing violent had been officially documented. Friends recalled how he could charm anyone with his easy smile, but behind closed doors, he was unpredictable. Several women who had known him described him as possessive and controlling. Investigators also reached out to digital experts to analyze Armand's online activity in greater detail. They uncovered attempts to delete messages and erase search, history related to violence and dismemberment. Despite these efforts, fragments of incriminating information remained, enough to keep the case alive. As the pressure mounted, Armand's calm facade began to crack. Authorities increased surveillance, and rumors circulated that he was struggling to maintain his story. The media spotlight intensified, painting a grim picture of a man who had betrayed love and trust in the most brutal way. The disappearance of Shraddha Walkar was no longer just a missing person case. It was a dark saga of manipulation, violence, and cold calculation. The city held its breath as the investigation unfolded, waiting for the moment when the full truth would emerge from the shadows. And when it did, it would shake Mumbai and the world at its very core. As the investigation into Shraddha Walkar's disappearance intensified, police forces turned every stone in their search for clues, hoping to unravel the grim mystery that now gripped the city. The blood-stained mattress discovered in Armand Verma's storeroom had transformed the case into a chilling murder inquiry. Forensics experts carefully examined the apartment, meticulously collecting evidence from every corner. The blood was confirmed to belong to Shraddha, confirming what had been feared all along. She had not simply vanished, but had been brutally killed. Alongside the blood evidence, detectives found traces of cleaning agents mixed with biological matter throughout the apartment. This suggested a frantic effort to erase signs of violence. Investigators also discovered suspicious items that raised disturbing questions about the extent of the crime. A recently purchased heavy-duty meat grinder stood in the kitchen, its blades coated with what forensic analysts later identified as human tissue residues. Several saws and sharp knives were recovered, each bearing faint traces of blood. Large, industrial-sized garbage bags were found stuffed away in cupboards, as if prepared in advance for disposing of something gruesome. Police traced the purchase history of these items through store records and online orders. It became clear that Armand had acquired them weeks before Shraddha's disappearance. This pointed to premeditation, a cold and calculated plan rather than a spontaneous act of violence. Investigators pieced together a horrifying theory. After killing Shraddha, Armand had dismembered her body to hide the evidence. The search expanded beyond the apartment to the surrounding neighborhoods and city outskirts. Police scoured parks, empty lots, and garbage dumps, places where stray dogs were commonly seen. Several witnesses reported sightings of Armand carrying large bags late at night, moving with an urgency that suggested he was desperate to avoid being seen. The bags were often dumped near spots notorious for dog gatherings, raising chilling suspicions about what they might contain. Forensic teams began recovering fragments of human remains scattered around these areas, small bones, scalp, fragments, and other body parts. Each discovery sent shockwaves through the community and intensified the urgency of the investigation. The realization that parts of Shraddha's body were deliberately discarded in places frequented by stray dogs horrified investigators and the public alike. The most disturbing aspect was how methodically Arman appeared to have planned this disposal. He seemed to rely on the scavenging habits of stray dogs to eliminate the physical evidence. The animals, long seen by Arman as his friends and symbols of kindness in his online persona, were now unwitting participants in a gruesome cover-up. Police theorized that he believed feeding the remains to the dogs would erase any trace of the crime, nature taking care of his darkest secret. In the meantime, detectives continued to examine Arman's digital life. His social media remained active during and after Shraddha's disappearance, featuring cheerful food reviews and heartwarming clips of him feeding stray dogs. However, experts analyzing the data found signs of manipulation. Several messages on Shraddha's accounts appeared to have been sent from devices located near Arman's apartment. The language was inconsistent, and some posts seemed intended to mislead rather than communicate truthfully. Further investigations revealed attempts to delete incriminating conversations and location data. But despite these efforts, digital forensic teams recovered fragments of erased chats. These snippets suggested a pattern of control and intimidation within their relationship, confirming accounts from Shraddha's friends and family. At the police station, Arman's interrogation was relentless. Initially, he maintained a calm and composed demeanor, repeating his story that Shraddha had left after an argument. But confronted with mounting evidence, cracks began to show. Over several days, under the pressure of questioning and the weight of overwhelming proof, Arman finally confessed. His admission was chilling. He described how an argument had escalated into violence, leading him to strangle Shraddha in a fit of rage. The reason he gave was tied to his fear of exposure. He believed Shraddha was planning to reveal his abusive behavior to the public and his fans, which would destroy his carefully crafted image. But what followed was even more horrifying. To cover up his crime, Arman confessed to dismembering Shraddha's body. Using the meat grinder and saws he had bought weeks before, he cut her into parts, placing them in garbage bags. He then disposed of these bags in various locations known for stray dog activity, believing the animals would consume the remains, leaving no trace. This macabre strategy was as cold as it was calculated, a twisted attempt to erase his actions completely. The police found it difficult to grasp how someone who portrayed himself as a compassionate animal lover could commit such a horrific act. Arman's duality stunned even seasoned investigators. On camera, he was the cheerful food blogger, feeding stray dogs and sharing smiles with thousands. In private, he had become a remorseless killer, willing to sacrifice human life to protect his reputation. The confession led to a frenzy of media coverage. Journalists delved into every detail of the case, exposing the chilling juxtaposition between Arman's public persona and his hidden darkness. The story gripped the nation, sparking conversations about domestic abuse, online personas, and the dangers of controlling relationships. People struggled to reconcile the image of the man they had admired with the brutal reality of his crimes. Meanwhile, forensic experts continued to work tirelessly, gathering every possible piece of evidence. The human remains recovered from the disposal sites were painstakingly catalogued, providing grim confirmation of Arman's confession. Though not all parts of Shraddha's body were found, the evidence was sufficient to move forward with charges of premeditated murder, destruction of evidence, and criminal conspiracy. As the case moved to court, prosecutors painted a picture of a man who had meticulously planned and executed the crime. They emphasized the callousness with which Armand treated human life, his manipulative tactics to evade suspicion, and the cruelty of using innocent animals in his cover-up. Throughout the trial, the public followed every update with a mix of horror and fascination. Shraddha's family, though shattered, found a measure of solace in the pursuit of justice. They spoke out about the importance of recognizing warning signs in abusive relationships and the need to protect vulnerable individuals. In the end, the case of Shraddha Walkar and Armand Verma was a grim reminder that appearances can be deceiving. Behind the smiling food blogger who charmed millions lay a man capable of unspeakable violence. The horrifying details of how he tried to feed his girlfriend's remains to stray dogs shocked a nation and left an indelible mark on the collective conscience. The story was more than just a crime. It was a wake-up call, a tragic testament to the dangers lurking beneath seemingly perfect lives, and a call to never ignore the silent cries for help that too often go unheard until it's too late. With the confession in hand and the horrifying details of the crime exposed, the focus of the investigation shifted to uncovering the full extent of Armand Verma's actions and motivations. Detectives and forensic experts continued to analyze the evidence with renewed determination, determined to bring every hidden truth to light. As layers of this dark case unraveled, even more disturbing realities emerged, revealing a chilling portrait of manipulation, control, and cruelty. One of the key areas investigators explored was the nature of Armand and Shraddha's relationship. Friends and family of both revealed a story that contrasted sharply with the public image Armand had cultivated online. Shraddha was described as warm, kind-hearted, and independent. She had dreams and ambitions beyond her relationship, which she had shared with close friends and family. Yet, in private, she had endured emotional and psychological abuse that few had seen or understood. Several witnesses recalled how Armand's behavior became increasingly possessive over time. He monitored her movements, questioned her contacts, and isolated her from friends and family. This controlling behavior escalated as his online fame grew, feeding his need to maintain a perfect image. Shraddha's pleas for space and support reportedly met with threats and intimidation, trapping her in a cycle of fear and dependence. The violence that culminated in her murder was the tragic climax of a relationship marked by secrecy and suffering. Police dug deeper into Armand's past and discovered that his obsession with control and image was not new. Former acquaintances described similar patterns of manipulation in previous relationships, though none had resulted in criminal charges. It appeared that Armand's carefully crafted persona hid a deeply disturbed individual with violent tendencies. Digital forensics uncovered messages where Armand had expressed frustration and rage over losing control. He feared exposure more than anything else and had planned drastic measures to protect himself. These messages revealed a premeditated mindset, confirming that Shraddha's murder was not an impulsive act, but a cold, calculated crime. The forensic examination of the dismembered remains provided further evidence of the brutality involved. Specialists described how the use of the meat grinder and saws was methodical, intended to hasten decomposition and complicate identification. This indicated a disturbing level of planning and callousness. Meanwhile, the investigation into the disposal of Shraddha's remains expanded to understand the role stray dogs played. Animal experts and veterinarians were brought in to analyze how the remains might have been consumed or scattered. This unique aspect of the case raised ethical and emotional challenges as it forced the community to confront the grisly reality of how nature had been used in a criminal act. Police also traced Armand's movements during the days after Shraddha's death. CCTV footage and witness statements confirmed he had visited multiple disposal sites across Mumbai, often at night and with large, heavy bags. His calculated approach reflected his desperation and cunning. He used the city's sprawling urban environment to his advantage, attempting to cover his tracks amid the chaos. The role of technology in both facilitating and exposing the crime became increasingly apparent. While Armand tried to manipulate digital evidence, it was ultimately these very tools, CCTV cameras, online purchase records, and forensic data that unraveled his lies. The case underscored how modern investigations rely heavily on digital footprints to uncover hidden truths. As the case gained national attention, it sparked widespread debate about domestic violence, mental health, and online personas. Experts emphasized the dangers of idealizing social media figures without understanding the complexities behind the scenes. Shraddha's story became a rallying point for advocacy groups campaigning for stronger protections for victims of abuse and better awareness of warning signs. Public response was intense. Vigils were held in Shraddha's memory, drawing crowds who wanted to honor her life and call for justice. Stray dog welfare groups also issued statements condemning Armand's actions, distancing themselves from his cruelty and emphasizing the importance of humane treatment of animals. The tragic misuse of stray dogs in this crime added another layer of sorrow to an already heart-wrenching story. In court, the prosecution presented a compelling case, supported by overwhelming forensic evidence, witness testimonies, and Armand's own confession. The defense attempted to portray Armand as mentally unstable, but the premeditated nature of the crime made this argument weak. The judge and jury were faced with a clear picture of a man who had committed a heinous act to protect a false image. Throughout the trial, Shraddha's family remained a powerful presence, demanding truth and accountability. Their courage in facing the public spotlight helped raise awareness about the devastating impact of domestic violence and the importance of support systems for victims. The trial also brought attention to the broader societal issues at play. The FI case highlighted how abusive relationships can remain hidden behind closed doors, and how social media can sometimes mask reality rather than reveal it. Experts called for more education on healthy relationships, mental health support, and mechanisms for victims to seek help safely. As the courtroom drama unfolded, it became clear that the story of Shraddha Walkar was not just about one tragic death, but a wake-up call for society at large. The cruelty and cunning of Armand Verma were shocking, but the case also revealed the resilience and strength of those who fought for justice. In the end, the verdict delivered a sense of closure. For many, Armand was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life imprisonment. The harsh sentence reflected the gravity of his crimes and served as a warning that such acts of violence and deception would not be tolerated. Yet even as justice was served, the community continued to grapple with the aftermath. Shraddha's memory inspired ongoing efforts to support abuse victims and raise awareness about the dangers lurking behind seemingly perfect lives. Her story became a symbol of the urgent need for vigilance, compassion, and action to protect the vulnerable. The case also left a lasting impact on how online personalities are viewed. It challenged the trust placed in public figures and reminded everyone that appearances can be dangerously misleading. In a world increasingly connected by technology and social media, the need to look beyond the surface had never been more important. Ultimately, the horrifying case of Shraddha Walkar and Arman Verma became a tragic chapter in Mumbai's history, a story of love turned deadly, of cruelty hidden behind kindness, and of a community forced to confront the darkest corners of human nature. It was a grim reminder that justice, while essential, can never fully erase the pain left behind. But it also proved that truth, no matter how horrifying, has the power to bring light to the darkest of crimes. The courtroom was filled with tension as the trial of Arman Verma entered its final phase. After weeks of detailed testimonies, expert evidence, and emotional accounts from Shraddha Walkar's family and friends, the moment to deliver the verdict had arrived. The judge's voice was steady but heavy with the weight of responsibility as he read the charges and reviewed the harrowing facts of the case. The evidence was overwhelming, leaving little room for doubt about Arman's guilt. Throughout the proceedings, the defense had tried to portray Arman as a man overwhelmed by emotional instability, seeking to reduce his culpability by suggesting mental illness or momentary loss of control. Yet the cold, calculated nature of his actions, the premeditated purchase of tools, the effort to dispose of the body through gruesome means, and the manipulation of digital evidence painted a different picture. The jury listened carefully to the expert analyses of forensic scientists, psychologists, and law enforcement officers, all of whom painted a picture of a man who planned his crime meticulously and executed it without remorse. As the verdict was announced, the courtroom fell silent. Arman Verma was found guilty of murder, destruction of evidence, and conspiracy to commit murder. The sentence was life imprisonment, reflecting the brutal nature of the crime and the lasting impact it had on Shraddha's family and the wider community. The judge spoke of the necessity of justice, emphasizing that no one should be above the law, regardless of their public image or social standing. For Shraddha's family, the verdict was a bittersweet moment. Their grief had been compounded by the horror of how she died and the shocking manner in which Arman attempted to erase her existence. Yet, the verdict brought a sense of closure, a recognition that their loved one's life mattered and that the man responsible would face consequences. Their public statements called for increased awareness of domestic abuse and urged society to recognize and act upon warning signs before tragedy struck. The media frenzy surrounding the trial slowly began to subside, but the story remained etched in public memory. People continued to reflect on the disturbing reality that someone who had cultivated such a wholesome, compassionate image online could harbor such darkness. Discussions about the dangers of social media personas, the hidden abuses within relationships, and the importance of mental health support became more widespread. At the same time, the case sparked debates about stray dog welfare, given the gruesome role these animals had played, albeit unknowingly, in the disposal of Shraddha's remains. Animal rights activists condemned Arman's actions and worked to raise awareness about the ethical treatment of animals. The community came together to support efforts aimed at improving the conditions of stray dogs, turning tragedy into a catalyst for compassion. Beyond the legal outcome, the case highlighted significant challenges in detecting and preventing domestic violence. Shraddha's tragic death underscored how abusers can manipulate victims and hide violence behind closed doors and digital facades. Social workers and advocates called for better education, resources, and support systems to protect those at risk. Campaigns were launched to encourage people to speak out and seek help, reminding everyone that silence often enables abuse to continue unchecked. In the months following the trial, Shraddha's story inspired several initiatives aimed at fostering safer communities. NGOs started outreach programs focused on educating young people about healthy relationships and recognizing red flags. Police departments began specialized training to handle domestic abuse cases more sensitively and efficiently. The hope was that through awareness and early intervention, lives could be saved. Meanwhile, Arman Verma adjusted to life behind bars, cut off from the online platforms that once made him famous. Prison officials noted his withdrawn and unrepentant demeanor. Interviews with psychologists working in correctional facilities revealed that Arman showed little remorse, often fixated on maintaining his innocence publicly, despite overwhelming evidence. His case became a study for criminal psychologists, analyzing the mindset of individuals who commit calculated, violent crimes hidden beneath seemingly normal facades. For the public, the story remained a grim reminder of the duality. People can hide, the contrast between what is shown to the world and the reality beneath. Social media platforms also faced increased scrutiny, with calls for better ways to identify potential abuse and harmful behavior among influencers and content creators. The case served as a powerful argument for digital responsibility and the need to protect vulnerable users. Shraddha's family, while forever changed by loss, found strength in their ongoing advocacy. They partnered with organizations working to combat domestic violence and provide support for survivors. Their efforts helped keep Shraddha's memory alive, transforming their grief into a powerful force for change. Their message was clear: no one should suffer in silence, and justice must extend beyond the courtroom. The community that once celebrated Arman's online presence grappled with betrayal and heartbreak. Many followers expressed feelings of shock and disbelief, struggling to reconcile the man they admired with the criminal he was revealed to be. Online discussions often reflected on how easy it is to be deceived by curated images and how important it is to question and look deeper. As time passed, the case of Shraddha Walkar and Arman Verma became more than a news story. It became a symbol and a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked control, the dark side of social media fame, and the critical importance of recognizing and addressing domestic violence. The lessons learned from this tragedy influenced policies, community programs, and personal awareness in ways that aimed to prevent similar horrors in the future. The legacy of Shraddha Walkar was thus twofold: a life tragically cut short and a powerful catalyst for change. While nothing could undo the pain suffered, the truth revealed in this case empowered others to speak up and seek help. It reminded society that behind every smiling face and social media profile may lie a story of struggle, and that vigilance, compassion, and justice are essential to protect the vulnerable. In the end, the horrifying case was a stark reminder that evil can sometimes wear a friendly mask, and that beneath the surface of charm and kindness, darkness can fester unnoticed. It challenged everyone to be more aware, more empathetic, and more willing to confront uncomfortable truths. The hope was that Shraddha's story, though filled with tragedy, would inspire a future where such cruelty could be prevented, and where victims would find support before it was too late.